Inside the VGK studio, Studio 31 at City National Arena, this is the Knights Report presented by Jack in the Box. Darren Millard here, along with Stormy Bonner-Tony, ringside reporter on AT&T broadcasts, as well as with Vegas Golden Knights. Gary Lawless will join us, VGK insider, in just a little bit. Big news this week, the launch of Phase 2, which allows the players on the ice at team facilities, as well as today, the announcement that Phase 3 will be underway on July 10th, and that is the start of training camp. So a lot to get to with Gary, as well as Stormy. How are you? This has been a great, moving, positive step week.
Oh my gosh, yes, I'm so excited. It's so cool to know that we're in the building up here, being able to do these broadcasts back in studio, that the players are in the building, getting some ice under them. It's all just a very exciting time.
And one of those players is Nick Holden, who joins us now. And Nick, it's been a couple of skates for you and your group in these small skating sessions. What was the first thing that you noticed as you tried to shake off the rust?
My Bambi legs. It was pretty funny the first couple drills. Yeah, we were definitely trying to shake rust off. We had a couple of guys take spills and I don't know. You're just working out the kinks and you're just trying to get back into the flow of being on the ice. Obviously, 2 months off, not being on the ice is a pretty long time for us. So just like anything else, it came back to us, but took us falling over a few times.
That's fantastic. As much as you can you take us behind the curtain a little bit? Just what is it like for you coming to the facility to the time you leave? Because obviously things are very different from what you're accustomed to.
Yeah, I mean, I think our training staff and the organization's done a really good job just kind of streamlining everything, making sure that we're safe doing what we're doing. But in the mornings, we just show up and we have to go in behind the rink and come in kind of a back door where we get our temperature taken. And then you're designated 3 guys to a locker room in the dressing rooms. And then they have spaces set up for each individual guy to be able to warm up and stretch, and then on workout days you have your own little area to do your training and stuff like that. So our team's done a great job giving us access to the whole building right now, and it's been easy for us. Some of the guys we were talking before when they were talking about getting everything organized, and it seemed like there might have been more to do and more protocol, but our guys have done a great job making sure that it's easy for us.
Were the lungs burning?
I think that's an understatement. You always come back your first few skates, say in the summertime, the lungs are burning, but you always, as hard as you train off the ice, nothing really compares to being on the ice and getting that deep burn. So the lungs were burning, the legs were burning, but we were all just happy to be out there, and at least with a few of us together.
I love that Darren asked this because Gary asked you in a Q&A earlier during the pause, what's one thing that you think that you would really miss doing right now that you normally wouldn't like? And you said a bag skate. How instant did you regret saying that once you got back on the ice?
Well, we haven't done any bag skates yet.
No, I know.
It's still just 6 of us out there. But, yeah, I mean, in my mind at the time, I was like, yeah, I would love to do a bag skate right now because I want to just be on the ice. And then now that you're on the ice and the legs are just filling up with lactic acid and you're sucking wind, you're kind of like, I don't know if I could do a bag skate right now. Might need a couple weeks to get into that.
6 skaters to a group, and there's always one alpha out there, but there's also one person that usually takes charge to make sure everybody's doing the drill properly. Who's that person in your group?
They've actually wanted us to do the way that they've organized it. They assign a drill to each guy, actually. I don't know if it's so that when we're tired out there, you only have to remember one drill, so one guy doesn't have to remember everything. But our group, we're a little bit older guys, so everybody kind of just make sure we know what we're doing. We're still messing up drills, missing passes and stuff like that, but just like I said, we're working out the kinks. So
I had one player tell me, and a coach asked him about it, and he totally agreed. that the time between drills was going to be really exaggerated as the players tried to figure out what was going on as you transitioned. Is that true?
Our group, we were actually pretty fast, almost too fast. We were almost looking at each other like, should we slow down a little bit here or what's going on? Not that the speed of the drill is going fast, but just the in-between, we maybe should slow down a little bit, but I think we're just too excited to be out there.
You show even just that one moment of little normalcy amongst all of you out there playing. How nice is it just to be with your friends again, with the guys again, being able to joke around and be loose together?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things that I've missed through this break is just not being around the guys and having that little camaraderie and joking around. And I love my wife and kids, but it's nice to have some grown adults to be around and joke around with. So, yeah, I think that's been nice the last little bit. The 2 skates and then 2 workouts that we've done, just being around a little bit of the group. And then obviously we're fortunate we get Flower on our ice surface, so still nice to score on him whenever I can.
Mark Stone just did a Zoom call and talked to the media. First time we've heard from him in a while. What was your impression of his game coming off the pause? And he was injured going into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say his game. All the guys we're not going 100% yet. We're just dipping our feet in the water here. But Mark and Patch were injured when this first started, and now they're looking good. And which for our team, they're 2 huge players for us, and so it's pretty awesome to see them shooting the puck and being able to freewheel like they were before.
You have both of those guys who are week to week right before the pause, Mark Stone and Max Pacioretty, both getting into the swing of things. So it must be nice to know that they're back and they're feeling good. Yeah,
obviously, like I said, they're 2 big pieces to our group, and so for them to be out there with kind of no restrictions is great to see.
We know that July 10th is going to be the start of Phase 3, but now that you've had a couple of skates, a couple of workouts back in the facility, how long do you think players are actually going to need before you're kind of in that rhythm again?
Yeah, I don't know. It's obviously what's happened here has never happened before, and so it's something that the body, the mind, all that isn't used to doing. So I think it'll take every player something different, and it's good that we have, I think it's 4 weeks or 5 weeks before that July 10th, and so it's good that we have that to be able to each individually work to make sure that we're ready to go come July 10th, so that it's a quick turnaround after those after the training camp. We're right back into it, and the games matter. So I couldn't give you a definite this is how long it's going to take. After 2 skates, I'm not there yet, so I don't know about other guys, but it's definitely a good time to have here so we can progress in the right way.
Well, and it is crazy to think that you're going from a training camp where the only time you've done that before is in the preseason, getting ready for your first regular season game. You're going right into the postseason. How excited are you, though, to be able to have that training camp time with Pete DeBoer? Because you weren't able to have that before, and everything that you were learning under him was kind of on the fly as you go during the season.
Yeah, I think it'll be good to have that. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit of a different training camp just because you're not starting the season. You're going to the end and getting to where the games matter the most. And so I don't know if training camp will be anything similar to what it would be if it was a normal training camp for Pete. But I think anytime you have an extended amount of practice time with a coach, obviously he's new and we're still, like you said, we were learning on the fly with his systems and stuff like that. And I thought we were starting to have a really good grasp on it. But anytime you can get some extra practice in, it's going to help.
When was the last time you played in a round robin format?
Yeah, maybe back in junior would probably be the kind of in junior A. There's like a national championship back home called the Royal Bank Cup, and they do a little round robin before you go into the semis and stuff like that. And that would probably be the last time that I was involved in anything like that.
So how much intensity do you think will be part of that round robin, because you guys aren't in an elimination format like the 5 to 12 seeds are?
Again, I think that's going to be hard to say just because nobody's gone through this. But for our group, at least for myself, I know that I'm going to make sure that my intensity level's up, because you're going to have those few games, and then, like I said, it's straight into the games, that elimination games. And so if you're not ready to go at that top level, then you're going to be a step behind.
Well, this is kind of a random question, but what's the one at-home workout you were sick of doing that you're so happy to be out on the ice because you didn't have to do this anymore?
I don't know. I was having a kind of fun at home there. I had my boys who are 8 and 6. They would do the workouts with me. They wouldn't be doing what I was doing all the time, but they'd be working out with me. So I made it the workouts a little bit enjoyable. But bike riding's got to be one of maybe the worst things. Or doing shuttle runs. Those ones suck too, especially when you're in Vegas and it's hot outside and you're just sweating through it. So I'd say maybe shuttle runs is the worst. You'd rather be on the ice skating.
I have no idea how you do it with kids that age and work out at that time.
He had mini trainers.
Teach me your secret.
Oh, you did. I was just, honestly, it was actually awesome. The setup we had in my garage, I had a bike and an elliptical that I've collected over the years. And so if I was doing a little bit of weight, my 8-year-old would be on the bike, doing a little bike ride. My 6-year-old would be on the elliptical, just cruising along. And then I'd have them kind of doing sit-ups or jumps or whatever while I was doing stuff. For the most part, they would be involved, but then they'd always be times where they'd go out and just grab a hammer and start punching nails into wood or doing whatever in the garage, breaking cardboard boxes, or honestly, just whatever.
This is fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Father's Day is coming up. Just a great time for you with all the kids, but also with your dad, John. How's he doing?
Yeah, he's doing good. He's back home. He's a mailman back home, and so he never got shut down at all. So he was working through all this, and he's just been itching, trying to get updates from me on what's going on and when hockey might return and stuff like that. But anytime I'd find out, I'd be letting him know. But the weather seems to be finally changing up in Edmonton, so they're starting to get some nice weather. No more snow and rain and stuff like that. So it's good to hear that, because for a while there I felt bad. It was snowing still back home, and we're sitting in the pool or enjoying the hot weather here.
And he's a mailman, so he's got to be out in it.
Oh yeah, he's out in the elements, and it's he comes home some days and he's a little choked that he's still walking, and that's what he's doing. But most days he loves it. He loves being around people, and that might be the hardest part for him through all that, was that he wasn't supposed to be, or he's not allowed to be delivering mail directly to people anymore. And so anybody that would try and get it from him, he would have to kind of just either put it down or put it somewhere else. And he loves talking, so he had to avoid that a little bit, or at least stay a little bit farther back.
And you know why he's really interested in getting the information from you is because everybody on the road is asking him, thinking he's got the inside scoop.
Yeah, exactly. He's got all the people on his route that are saying, "Hey, when's hockey coming back?" So.
Happy Father's Day to you, and pass along the same to your dad as well.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
There's Nick Holden, a Vegas Golden Knights defenseman, back on the ice a couple of times this week, skating in these small group sessions at City National Arena. And interesting, all the off-ice work that you can do, and you're still getting used to that hockey shape and that hockey, catching your hockey wind.
Yeah, that's the one thing that all of the players, I feel like, talk about, is that you can't do anything that really simulates being on the ice and doing hockey. But he looked like he was pretty comfortable in that bed, so he's been getting his naps in, it seems like, so far for phase 2.
Well, when you're working out with the 8 and the 6-year-old and you've got 4 kids running around, you got to get quiet time whenever you can. You were great with the VGK Fit Challenge during the pause, so what's the one workout that you're happy to be done with?
the VGK Fit Challenge as a whole, because I was so out of shape when we started that thing, and so it kicked my butt. I know you gave me so much grief for just even the way that I did the Fit Challenge.
Well, you bent the rules a little bit.
I paused it. Okay, it's fine. I'm sure I'm not alone. Those of you watching, don't lie to me. I know that you paused it too.
You don't have to admit anything.
It's tough getting back in it. I can't imagine what these guys are going through right now.
Yeah, what a great week around this facility. One of the teams that have been back on the ice, so it's some enthusiasm. Thanks for doing this. It's been just a wonderful jump up between Phase 2 and now Phase 3. Thanks, Stormy.
Yeah, thank you. Really excited.
So Phase 2 actually started on Monday with teams allowed to open up their facilities and bring in players in small groups, maximum 6 players per ice session, and 6 clubs launched into that on Monday. Another 8 have since taken to the ice in their club facilities, and the final 10 still not sure exactly when they'll open up their facilities. Some, like the St. Louis Blues, say that their players are doing work on their own right now, and they'll be ready to open up whenever the players are back in full force in those cities. Other cities just don't have the necessary numbers right now, so it's not worth putting in the ice. Montreal falls into that category. So Phase 2 underway on Monday. We're into that, and thought that was going to be the biggest news of the week, but VGK insider Gary Lawless joins us now. Phase 3 will start on July 10th, and that's the start of training camps, and we'll get to that in depth as we move through here. But the announcement coming out today and the significance of this Phase 3 announcement, Gary.
We'll get to that in 1 second. First, we have a little news to break. Vegas Golden Knights have re-signed Oscar Dansk to a one-year deal at an average annual value of $700,000. So there's some breaking news for you on Knights Report.
So Oscar Dansk with the organization for another year, and we'll see where he fits into the fold. But that's positive with the depth of the goaltending position with the Vegas Golden Knights. First shutout in franchise history belongs to Oscar Dansk.
Yes. So let's get back to the significance of the deal, of this announcement. What are you laughing about?
Well, every time I ask you a question, you switch to another subject.
Okay, well, you didn't ask me a question. You made a statement. You're right. He got the first shutout in team history. Okay, way to go. Can we go to the next topic? Significance in the way this is framed, and that is an announcement from the Players Association and the National Hockey League. It's not a leverage play from one side, trying to force the other into a situation. They did it together. They've come to this agreement and have said if medically it's okay to do, and if we've come to an agreement on everything, and we'll get to that in a minute because there's lots of things that have to kind of fall into place, then July 10th we'll report and we'll begin training camp. So this is a massive step forward for the National Hockey League, for the National Hockey League Players Association, for us, for fans, for everybody. There is a clear path to return to play, and training camp starts on July 10th. Good news.
So if training camps start on July 10th, which is roughly a month now, as we're in day 91 since the pause went into effect, what are the dominoes after that?
Yeah, well, so we've heard that training camp would be anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks, or upwards of 3 weeks. So, maybe it's 2, maybe it's 3, maybe it's 4. But if it starts on July 10th, I would think that then puck drop on the round robin games and the play-in series, the best 3 out of 5s, those would start early August, first week of August, August 5, 6, 7, 8, in and around there. So, my kind of guess is that you'll go to camp on July 10th, you'll be there for 2 or 2.5 weeks, and then you'll go to your hub city. And once you're in your hub city, you'll play 2 preseason games. That'll be sort of the second half of the third week or the third week. And then when that is done, we'll move into the round robin and the best 3 out of 5 play-in series, and then after that is concluded, then we'll begin the Stanley Cup playoffs with 16 teams playing 4 rounds of best of 7 to determine a Stanley Cup champion.
So the way it lines up, but just reading through the tea leaves, you're looking at the exhibition games in late July kind of thing. and then we may see the return to play actual, whether it's the round robin or the series in early August.
Yeah, I would sort of say, maybe August 1st, 2nd, you would start those preseason games. There'll be practices still in and around that because all the teams are going to play those 2 preseason games, right? So you've got, you got to play 48 games, if my math is correct. So that's a lot of hockey in a short amount of time. And then that would open you up to, like I said, puck drop on the buys, on the round robin series and the best 3 out of 5s sort of in that August 5th to 8th. And then if you do the math, it sort of looks like, if everything went to max, you would finish and award the Stanley Cup in, the first week, second week of October. And that timing is really good for the NHL because, everybody's worried about a surge, a second wave of COVID plus the seasonal flu all coming in at around that late October. No one really wants to be doing much in late October or November if they can avoid it, and this would avoid that timing. So it looks like Gary Bettman and Don Fear, the return to play committee, and all the general managers, everybody that's been involved in this, they're steering it in a real good direction, and they're on time.
Not written in stone, but we do have a bit of a roadmap with that.
Exactly.
Great job, Gary. When it comes to the return to play and these preseason games and the actual round robin and play-in series, we have an idea of when that will take place. What about where? And that takes us to the hub city conversation. What do you know on that?
Yeah, well, they're still... So I guess what has to happen next is there's going to have to be an announcement of an agreement between an overall agreement that's signed by the players and by the NHL that finalizes phase 3 and phase 4, and the hub cities will fall into that. So will the hub cities be announced before that or just after that? I think they want to wait on the hub cities as long as they can for a couple of reasons. Number one, Canada's got there's some border issues and quarantine issues with Canada. You want to see if that gets straightened out before you make a decision there. And then you also want to see where the disease is. If the disease spikes in a certain city and really goes wild there, they don't want to be in that city. They want to be in a place where COVID is at a, if not really quiet, is certainly plateaued. So they want to keep an eye on medically on that for sure as well. So a little early to decide exactly where the hubs would be.
Feels like Vegas has been talked about since Hub City idea was initially brought up. So
yeah.
Is Vegas one of the favorites?
Well, this is how I would term it. I think the NHL wants to have a Canadian city and they want to have a U.S. city. This is a league that crosses the border. The history in Canada and the fact that, still a majority of players come from Canada, that's important to the National Hockey League. And then obviously financially, yeah, you get, the Canadian dollar is trading around 70 cents right now, give or take. So it's a 30% savings right off the bat if you're paying for meals and hotels in a Canadian market. So that helps for sure. But so you want a Canadian city and you want a U.S. city. Because of the TV, this is a made for broadcast event. You want an Eastern time zone and you want a Pacific time zone city. So you want one city in the East, you want one city in the West. And, the cities we're hearing Toronto. That makes a lot of sense. Toronto is, in some ways the center of the hockey universe. And then the other city here is Vegas. And Vegas makes a lot of sense because if the NHL decides they want to take, a Vegas-style resort, which will have, upwards of 2,000 rooms. We'll have 10 restaurants plus. We'll have pools, we'll have gyms, we'll have movie theaters, we'll have entertainment. There's nothing like it. So if you have to put players in a place for a long period of time, potentially, 60 to 70 days, a Vegas-style resort really makes a lot of sense. So if I had to guess and make a bet, Toronto and Vegas would be the two cities. But they got to figure out the border in Canada before Toronto is a real possibility.
And Toronto hosted the 2016 World Cup, similar type format, 3 games
for
a
sure.
day.
No, they know how to do it.
Went through that recently. Just the impact of what we've gone through and witnessed, and this plan to get players back on the ice, and how it impacts the CBA.
Well, the economics of the National Hockey League, of all professional sports, have been dramatically affected by COVID-19. So the salary cap last year was around $83 million. And if you stuck with the current CBA, next year, the player's salary, it's a real simple formula. They have what they call hockey-related revenue, and the salary, the players get 50% of that hockey-related revenue. That's pooled, and that's where they get the salary cap from. Well, if hockey-related revenue is cut dramatically, then the salary cap has to go down. And the players don't really want guys that have signed contracts for, whether it's $1 million or $8 million, you want to get as close to that number as you can. So the current CBA doesn't really allow for that. So I believe that they're working on restructuring it so there'll be a way for the players to get as much of the salary, of the contracted salary that they've agreed to as they can, and also give ownership an opportunity to hold costs in line so they can. It will be a complicated financial formula, but they're working on one, and you would think they're making progress, and that's why together they made that announcement today. That's the other part of the significance of this announcement today coming from the NHL and the NHLPA. It is joint. That means that they're still getting along and still making progress together.
And they were already negotiating a little bit on the CBA going into this.
Well, prior to COVID, there were lots of talks. They were making progress. There was a real belief within the industry that labor peace was going to be had and going to be had for a long time going forward.
So just to carry open from that, and good cooperation there. Just before we go, a podcast this week with Ryan Reeves.
Yeah, with Dave Gosher, Shane Knighty, Dan Duva, and myself, the SLGND podcast. You can get that SoundCloud, iTunes, wherever you get your podcast. We talked about hockey, we talked about the state of the world, and we were joined by Ryan Reeves for a real good portion of our conversation. And he was fantastic. It's moving, it's powerful. It's Ryan like you've disarmed, like you've never heard him before. And he was, it's a really good conversation. I'm proud to have been part of it.
Well done. You can get that wherever you get your podcast.
Oscar Dansk, 1-year deal, $700,000 a year. VGK, goaltending depth in good shape.
That's great news in a big week around here at City National Arena. Thanks for doing this, Gary.
Well, thanks for having me. Sorry about the early jumping around.
You were bobbing and weaving on me.
Had a lot to get to.
I was trying to
nail you down. And the Dansk stuff was, I did some inside work, some grinding before coming on, so it was a last-minute addition.
Oh, don't worry. We're rusty like the players.
You're rusty. Look at the dress code. Come on.
For Gary Lawless and Stormy Bonatoni, I'm Darren Millard. Thanks for watching The Night Report, presented by Jack in the Box.